Hey everyone, welcome back to Trinity session number 21. This is the fifth Trinity session just on meditation. And I've got a question for you. How's it going? Like when you've practiced your Trinity practices, how did they leave you feeling? Do you feel better? Do you feel worse? Do you feel neutral, about the same? Do you feel empty? Do you feel full? Do you feel rejuvenated? Do you feel exhausted? What's that experience been like for you? Over the last few meditation sessions, we've been talking a lot about meditation for followers of Jesus and how it differs from other styles of meditation, mostly Eastern or Buddhist meditation. Today we're going to talk about a little bit more modern form of meditation that has become rather popular and how it differs from meditation for followers of Jesus. Now, this sort of meditation is, we would call it like psychological or maybe even therapeutic meditation. This would be something that somebody might be taught by a counselor or prescribed. There's all sorts of apps that will guide you through breathing exercises and meditations and stuff that we've talked about. But the goal is there's just a little subtle twist in it that's a little different, right? Like this sort of meditation, this like therapeutic meditation would be prescribed if you have like anxiety. Like if your mind consistently runs, how do you slow it down and get in control of your thoughts, right? Or if you're particularly fearful, how do you help yourself walk through, like calm your body down enough to walk through your fears in a real logical way so that you can help yourself walk through a difficult situation, right? Like, and by no means am I knocking that. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's very valuable. And by all means, I am a huge fan of all things counseling and psychology. What I would like to do is just illustrate a big difference between sort of psychological or therapeutic meditation and meditation as like a follower of Jesus would engage in it, because they are somewhat similar, right? Like as followers of Jesus, we do breathing practices. We breathe in God and we let go of ourselves and our fears and our anxieties, right? Like we practice that. We spend time in quiet thinking. We spend time learning how to quiet our mind. But this is where things start to differ for us. See, as followers of Jesus, our goal is not necessarily just to bring our minds under control or to lower our heart rate, although those are very beneficial and great things to do. I'm not saying you shouldn't do those, but what I'm saying is Christian meditation is different. Let me explain. I love the creation poem, the first couple chapters of Genesis. In it, God, the Hebrew tradition, it tells the story of how God created the world. And in Genesis 1, it tells the story of like God made the sky and the planets and the stars and the moon and the animals and the plants and the mountains and the seas and and all that sort of day and night and all that sort of stuff. And then at the capstone of his creation project was humans. Right? He made them differently, it says. In fact, in Genesis 1:27, it says he made them in the image of God. That's an interesting phrasing, right? The image of God. What does that mean? Like that we're little God statues? Kind of. What it's getting at is that we as humans are fundamentally different than almost any other species, right? You don't see other species that do community like we do. Sure, there are animals that live together, but do you ever see animals eat meals together? I mean, certainly you see chimpanzees like fishing termites out of big stacks together, and they do that sort of communally. But you don't ever see a chimpanzee create an invitation and invite their friends and set a table and prepare and cook a meal, right? Like you don't see chimps taking cooking classes or watching Food Network to learn how to make a perfect Eggs Benedict for that brunch where all your family's coming, right? You don't see animals that pursue beauty and art the way that we do. And sure, there's some birds with some brightly colored feathers, but that's mostly, a reproductive function, right? Like they have to attract a mate. And there's some birds that call, but there aren't birds that sing, right? Birds don't sit down and compose music together, right? They don't sit and think of lyrics and melodies to match each other. They don't spend their time painting walls just for fun. Animals don't decorate everything around them, including their bodies, right? We are fundamentally different. The idea is that God breathed his life into us, that he made us to reflect himself to the rest of creation. The problem is that we have become disconnected. And here's what I would like to propose is that sometimes when we meditate, we leave the meditation practice feeling more empty than we did at first, more lonely than we did at first. Why? Because we're not actually connecting with God. See, that's the whole goal of Christian meditation, is to make space. Like, we've learned to quiet our minds and to quiet our desires so that we have room for God to work and to speak, right? We've learned to breathe in God and let go of the things we're holding on to in his place, so that our body systems are in a place where our spirits can be attentive to what God wants to do. Now, don't get me wrong, this should lower your blood pressure. This should help you manage your anxiety. This should help you overcome your fears. These are good things, but the one major difference is connection with God. Because see, I fully believe, and even in my own practice, all the breathing in the world is not going to reconnect me with God. And because the truth is, what we're saying when we meditate and we breathe and we think ourselves through things is that we essentially have solutions. What we're really practicing is our own deity, right? Our own self-reliance, which can be dangerous when what you really need is connection with God. Let's see, because it's connection with God that makes the hope and healing and restoration of anxiety and fear and trauma really, truly possible. Oh man, today in our Trinity practice, we want you to do just that. We want you to focus on your relationship with God. Take at least 10 minutes, quiet, alone. If you need to start with some breathing, start with some breathing. Sit in a comfortable position wherever it is. Maybe it's in a hammock or in a chair, or standing up or laying down, or maybe you stretch, or maybe you walk. Spend at least 10 minutes thinking about your relationship with God, about your connectedness to the Creator, about that breath of life. And when you're done, I want you to write down 5 things that Jesus says to be true about you. And once you have this list, this is something you can go back to over and over again, add to, revise. For me, on my list, when I do this, it's Ephesians 2:10. I am God's masterpiece. That's particularly hard for me to believe. That God made me. Oh, man. And that he says that I'm good. That he likes me. He doesn't just love me, he likes me. Ephesians 2:10 says, I'm God's masterpiece, created in him to do good things. That the good things flow out of connectedness with my Creator. All right, guys, enjoy your meditation practice today, and I pray that you find God more fully in it. We'll see you here next time.